Hi, my name is Rob Loebell. This is one of my studios. It's really just a room in the basement where I have tools and a place to work. My favorite studio is actually outside on a nice day. This piece is called Two Photos Aging. I was recovering from heart surgery and I had my fiancée take a series of pictures at the time. I liked the idea of taking two-dimensional photographs and turning them into their original three-dimensional states. I wanted to show the photos aging, crumbling, which is how I felt. This sculpture is called Diefenbunker, which is a Cold War bunker in Ottawa, Canada, now turned into a tourist attraction. This was the beginning of my using photographs of places I visit as the images from my sculpture. The images are carved in relief, burned and painted to resemble black and white photographs. When I was in China a few years ago, I must have taken 2,000 photos. China is so vast that I wanted to put everything I saw into my sculpture. It's actually a fairly small relief, and each image is less than about 1 inch square. This is called China Line. I thought it was funny the way all the tourists are waiting in line to see the palace and taking pictures of each other. A piece like this might take me 2 or 3 months to carve and then burn and do the painting on. It's a pretty long process. The next trip was to South Africa to see animals in a very, very protected safari park. The sculpture is bounded by the pictures of the fences that keep the animals in and poachers out. But the animals are still beautiful and I was able to get very close to them. Talk about my work, it may seem like the pictures are the most important thing, but the movement of the camera through time to create a series of images, which as a whole can read as kind of abstract, is more interesting to me. This is called Elephant Watering Hole, which is also from South Africa pictures. This is from snorkeling in Bermuda. It's a photo of a coral I took with a $17 underwater camera. I started to think about how I could use color in my process, which led me to start exploring encaustic paint in my sculptures. A very important element in my sculpture is the type of wood I'm using. For these reliefs, I used Osage orange wood, which is pretty hard to carve, but I love the color. It is also the first piece that I used the encaustic paint for. This sculpture is called Stand Fishing, P-Town. The wood is Purple Heart, which is one of my favorite woods to use. It's very hard to carve, but it's beautiful and very stable and renewable. A lot of my pieces use a series of images like this, where the camera moves from one space to another, like your eye moves through space. While we're in Provincetown, this is one of the pictures I took at a friend's opening using a wide-angle lens. I like the kind of space that the wide-angle lens creates, sort of deep, and a little bit unusual with a lot of variety of sizes of the figures. I also love all the energy that's spilled out in the street in this opening. This is one of the 2 reliefs I carved using the Provincetown pictures. It has a deeper space than some of my other work. It's always challenging to translate the flat space of a picture into a dimensional carving, and the space of this piece was particularly challenging because of the half log that I started with. This is the companion sculpture to the last slide. The figures have moved a little and the camera's moved a little. The sculpture was conceived as a diptych, but I think each side stands by itself pretty well too. I'm going to change gears now. This is one of a series of photographs of loons that my brother, Larry Loebell, took in the Adirondacks. He also wrote poems about the loons. As you look at the sculpted images of the loons, you will hear the poems read with them. May, loons return from a North Atlantic winter. Birds that migrate but don't fly south seem a contradiction. Why would loons, with flight strength for a warmer vacation, choose for their winter home seas as frigid as those off Boston? Loons cannot fly from land, need a long water runway for takeoff. Death comes to those leaving lakes too late, stuck without hope of speed or loft. The ancient instinct for seasonal transit, this lake to ocean to lake ricochet, raises doubt. Can animals evolve fast enough to outrace the inbred habit when climate fears? Fewer nesting pairs are obvious this year in May when I kayak out. October, migration. My neighbor, Rob, a carver, perfects his birds. He sells his work in galleries and Etsy. A season of owls and hawks and osprey. He posts pictures of the loons he sculpts on Facebook. The models gather to fly away. We stand together by the water's edge. Lakes are freezing. There can be no delay. Like my neighbors, we read the chill, the changing leaves. It's time. We pack our car, batten down the house. We winter to the south. When we go, there will still be loons lingering, tempting the weather not to box them in without enough water for a running start. We come here for opposite reasons. We cool off in the north. They come from the sea to mate and for the warmth. My mate and I hold hands on our dock, look out at the lake a last time, and depart. People always seem curious about the kind of tools I use to carve my pieces because there's a lot of detail. It can be very delicate. Mostly I do the pieces by hand using very, very small chisels and small carving tools, but I also use a lot of Dremels and things with small bits on them like a dentist.